Hello, how are you? I'm a little tired. Sit down, please. I'd like to speak English today too, to improve my speaking skill. Let's get it started. Today, it is May 9th, 2022. I cannot tolerate anyone who is rude. Violation of the law cannot be tolerated. Violation of the speeding, violation of the law cannot be tolerated. 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 Violation of the Constitution cannot be tolerated. Cheating on the examination 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 cannot be tolerated. I will not tolerate what you said. I will not tolerate what you did. I will get even with you. I will get revenge on you. I will get even with you. I will not tolerate what you did. No one will tolerate what you did. No one will tolerate it. No one could tolerate his mistake. No one could tolerate his negligence. No one could tolerate his negligence. No one could tolerate his negligence. Violation of the law cannot be tolerated. 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 Have you engaged in the project? Have you engaged in the universe project? Are you engaged in the plan? Are you engaged in the project? Have you engaged in the project? Are you engaged in the project? Are you engaged in the development team? Are you engaged in the development team? Are you engaged in the development research team? Development and research team. Development and research team. Are you engaged in the development and research team? Are you engaged in the research and development team? Have you engaged in the program? Have you engaged in the club activity? Have you engaged in the club activity? Have you engaged in the plan? Have you engaged in the restaurant work? Have you engaged in the doctor work? Have you engaged in the desk 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 work? Have you engaged in white-collar jobs? Have you engaged in blue-collar jobs? Have you engaged in labor job? Manual job. Manual labor. Have you engaged in manual labor? Have you engaged in manual labor? Have you engaged in blue-collar labor? Blue-collar job. Have you engaged in white-collar job? I haven't engaged in the project. I haven't engaged in a crime. Please do not engage in any 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 crime. Do you engage in the desk work of the company? Do you engage in the research and development team in the company? Which department do you engage in? Which department of the company do you engage in? Which department of the company do you engage in? Which department of the company do you engage in? Do you belong to? Which department of the company do you belong to? Which department of the company do you belong to? I belong to research and development team. I belong to research and development department. Please do not engage in any crime. 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 The black company is very notorious. 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 The service at the hotel seems notorious. But when I visited the hotel, it was not so good. It was not notorious. It was not so bad. It was normal. The service at the hotel is very notorious. But when I visited the hotel, it was normal. So we cannot know the real situation of the service until we use it. Rumor is just a rumor. Do you know who he is? He is very notorious. Do you know who he is? He is very notorious in the region. Anyone don't wanna work in the company, in a company which is notorious. Everyone is afraid of working at a company which is notorious. The CEO of the company is notorious. The man used to be notorious in the past, but now he is very popular and he's loved by everyone. Notorious, notorious. The service at the hotel is notorious, but when I visited the hotel, it was normal. The service at the hotel is very notorious, but when I visited the hotel, it was normal. Visit, very difficult to pronounce, visit. But when I visited, but when I visited the hotel, visited. But when I visited the hotel, visited. But when I visited the hotel, visited the hotel. But when I visited the hotel, visited. But when I visited the hotel, it was normal. But when I visited the hotel, visit. But when I visited the hotel, But when I visited the hotel, it was normal. I hope any rebel will happen. I hope any rebel will not happen, will not arise, will not arouse. I hope any rebel will not arise, will not arouse, will not arouse, will not arouse, will not arouse. I hope any rebel will not break out. I hope any rebel will not break out. The rebel was put down by the government military. The riot was put down by the police. The rebel was put down by the government military. I hope any rebel will not happen. I hope any rebel will not break out. I want to earn enough money from YouTube videos. Ultimately, I want to be rich. Ultimately, I want to marry her and have a happy life with her. Ultimately, she became a singer. Ultimately, he made his dream come true. 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 Ultimately, I want to be a doctor. Ultimately, I want to earn enough money from YouTube videos. The turtle was captured by the kids. The cop was captured by the kids. The criminal was captured by the police immediately after the crime. The criminal was captured by the police. The criminal was captured running from the police soon. The criminal was captured escaping from the police. The criminal was captured escaping from the police. I confined most of my day to only studying before the examination. I confined most part of the day to only studying. I confined my day to almost studying. I confined my day to studying. I confined my weekends to studying before the examination. I confined my weekends to studying. I confined my Saturdays and Sundays to studying only to pass the examination. I was sometimes confined to a closet for doing something wrong. I was sometimes confined to a closet as a punishment. I was sometimes confined to a closet as a punishment. I was sometimes confined to a closet for punishment. I was sometimes confined to a closet as a punishment. I was sometimes confined to a closet for punishment. I was sometimes confined to a closet for punishment as a punishment. I was sometimes confined to a closet as a punishment. I was sometimes confined to a closet as a punishment. Have you been confined to a closet as a punishment? Have you been confined to a closet as a punishment? Have you been confined to a closet as a punishment? Have you been confined to a closet as a punishment? Have you been confined to a closet as a punishment? Have you been confined to a closet as a punishment? Have you been confined to a closet as a punishment? Have you been confined to a closet as a punishment? Have you been confined to a closet as a punishment? I confined myself to a room to concentrate on my studying until I pass the examination. I will confine myself to my room to concentrate myself on the studying only until I pass the examination. I confined my day only to studying before the examination until I finish the examination. I will confine my day only to studying until I achieve my goal. I was sometimes confined to a closet as a punishment. I was sometimes confined to a closet as a punishment. It is sometimes important to take action swiftly. The charity sent some food and drinks to the disaster-stricken area swiftly. It is sometimes very important to take action swiftly, take measures swiftly, 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 swiftly. It is sometimes very important to take action swiftly, take action swiftly. Can you take action swiftly? Can you take action swiftly, swiftly, swiftly? Can you move swiftly? I'd like to check if I can move swiftly when I become older. Swiftly, 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 swiftly. It is important to move swiftly, to take action swiftly, to take measures swiftly, swiftly. It is important to take measures, to take action swiftly, immediately, swiftly. It is important to take action swiftly. It is important. It is sometimes important or all the time important to take action swiftly. But many people do not challenge at all. Just tell complaints, and they never take actions. The ambulance was called in to carry the patient to the hospital. The ambulance was called in to carry the patient to the hospital. It was emergency, but he is now well treated and he is fine now, thanks to the immediate treatment. Thanks to the immediate treatment. The ambulance was called in to carry the patient to the hospital. Some engineers were called in to meet the demands immediately. Some employees were called in suddenly because they got sudden orders from the customers. They needed to deal with the process on the day. Some engineers were called in to find defects of the products. Some employees were called in the middle of the midnight suddenly to meet the demands, to meet the deadline of the products. Some employees were called into the workplace suddenly to finish the dealings, to meet the deadline. Some employees were called in on Saturdays and Sundays to meet the deadline. Some employees were also called in on Saturdays and Sundays to meet the deadline. In order to meet the deadline, some employees were called in on Saturdays and Sundays. The detective was called in to the accident venue to find the clues. To find the clues to the crime, and to find the evidence of the crime. Some detectives were called in to the accident venue, to find evidence of the crime. It took me about 1 hour to put down my fearness living in the new environment. Please do not put your books down. Books are very sacred. Please do not put your books on the floor. Put it on the shelves. The police put down the riot immediately. The police put down the riot. The police is putting down the riot. The police is putting down the riot. The police is now putting down the riot now. The police is now putting down the riot. The police is now putting down the riot. The police is now putting down the riot now. The police is now putting down the riot. The police officers are putting down the riot. The moderate atmosphere was put down by the bad news, so to speak, a lot of homework from the teacher. The moderate atmosphere was destroyed, put down by a word from the teacher. A lot of homework. The sudden cancellation of the school picnic put down the moderate atmosphere of the school. The riot was put down by the police. 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 The police put the riot down. The police put down the riot. The police put the riot down. Put the riot down. The police put the riot down. Riot down. The police put the riot down. Put down the riot. The police 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 put the riot down. It took about 1 hour and a half for the police to put down the riot. For the police to put down the riot. It took about 2 hours for the police to put down the riot. It took about 2 hours for the police to put down the riot. It took about 2 hours for the police officers to put down the riot. It took about 2 hours for the police officer to put down the riot. How can I put down my fearness before the examination or interview or something performance? How can I put down my fearness before my performance? How can I put down my fearness before the performance? The riot was put down by the police. 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 The good atmosphere of the classroom was put down by the cancellation of the school trip. The happy atmosphere of the classroom was put down by the notification of the cancellation of the school trip. The police will come in to put down the riot soon. It was not long before the ambulance came. It was not long before the police officers came to put down the riot. It won't long before the police officers will come in to put down the riot. It won't be long. It won't be long before the police will come to put down the riot. It won't be long before the police comes to put down the police come to put down the riot. It won't be very long before the police officers come to put down the riot. I usually appeal to my effort to achieve something. I usually appeal to my effort because I don't have a talent. I usually have to put twice as much effort as usually people to become normal. I usually have to put twice as much effort as normally ordinary people to become normal, to become average. I usually have to put twice as much effort as average people to become average. I usually have to put twice as much effort as ordinary people to become average. So to beyond the average people, I have to put 3 times as much effort as ordinary people. So I usually appeal to my effort. 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 I usually appeal to my effort to achieve something great, achieve something my goal, achieve my goal, so as to achieve my goal, in order to achieve my goal. The clothes was appealing to me, so I bought it. Sometimes some merchandises are appealing to me. I will buy them if they are reasonable, or else I won't buy them. When I was browsing the store, some goods were appealing to me, but they were expensive, so I didn't buy them. When I was browsing the store, some merchandises were appealing to me, were attractive to me, but they were expensive, so I didn't buy them. There are many temptations on my way home, so it's difficult to concentrate on my study. So it is difficult. It can be very difficult to go home straight. So it's better to live in a countryside if you want to be, if you want to concentrate on something you wanna do. Do you usually appeal to effort or miracle? Do you usually appeal to solving problems by yourself or turning to someone? Do you usually appeal to solving problems yourself or turning to someone, relying on someone, or relying on someone? I usually appeal to my effort to achieve something. I usually appeal to my effort to achieve my goals. I usually appeal to my effort to achieve something. I usually appeal to my effort to achieve something. I usually appeal to my effort to achieve something. I usually appeal to memorization when I study. I usually appeal to memorizing. I usually appeal to memorizing when I study, not understanding the theory. Do you appeal to memorizing or theory? Understanding the theory. Do you appeal to memorizing or understanding the theory. For example, when you study mathematics, do you memorize the equation as it is, or do you try to understand the mechanism of how the equation is made and so on? Do you appear to memorizing the equation, or trying to understand the mechanism of the equation of how it is made? Do you appear to memorizing or understanding the theory when you study? Do you appear to memorizing or understanding the theory when you study? For example, when you study mathematics, do you memorize the equation as it is, or try to understand of the mechanism of the equation of how it is made? Do you resort to effort? Do you resort to memorizing the equation or understanding the theory, understanding the equation? Do you resort to remembering everything or trying to understand the content when you study? Do you resort to memorizing the answer as it is, or understanding the content? Do not resort to your parents all the time. Do not resort to your friends all the time. It is important to solve the problems yourself. It is important to solve problems yourself. Do you usually resort to memorizing the answer as it is, or understanding the content of the questions or equations and so on? Do you resort to memorizing the answer as it is, or understanding the content? Do you resort to memorizing the answer or understanding the content when you study? Do you resort to the information from the internet? Don't resort to your parents all the time. Do not resort to your parents all the time. I usually resort to my effort because I don't have talent. I'm not talented. So I have to put twice as much effort as ordinary people to become average. I have to put twice as much effort as ordinary people to become average. So, which means I have to put 3 times as much effort as ordinary people to beyond average. To beyond average. I usually resort to my effort to achieve something. To achieve something. I usually resort to my effort to achieve something. Achieve something. Because I'm not talented at all. We should change the tactics. We should change the tactic. It is not working anymore. We should change the tactic with time, over time. I think the tactic is obsolete. We have to change. We have to exchange the old tactic with new one. We should change the old tactics with new ones. We should change the old tactics with the new ones. We should replace the old tactics with new ones. We should replace old tactics with new ones. We should replace the old tactics with new ones. They are all obsolete. Tactic. We should change the old tactics to new ones. We should replace the old tactics with new ones. We should replace old tactics with new ones. We should replace old tactics with new ones. We should replace old tactics with new ones. Tactic. Do you have a good tactic? Do you have a good tactic to pass examination? Do you have a good tactic to succeed in your life? Do you have a good tactic to recommend me refer to? Recommend me to refer to? Do you have a good tactic which recommend me to use it? Do you have a good tactic to recommend me to use? Do you have a good tactic which you recommend me use? My friends recommended that I should use the tactic. My friends recommended that I should use the tactic. I have to forego bonuses for the moment. For the moment. We have to leave some ingredients for the moment because we don't have the supplies. We have to forego some ingredients for the moment. We have to forego some ingredients for the moment. The popular item has not been sold out for the moment. The popular item has not been sold out for the moment. It is going well for the moment. It is going well for the moment. We are getting along with each other for the moment. We are getting along with each other for the moment. The problems will be dealt with at the meeting. The problem will be discussed at the meeting. The issues will be dealt with at the meeting. The issues will be discussed at the meeting. Can you put up with the noise coming outside? Can you put up with the hard training? Can you put up with the hard training? Can you put up with the hard training? No, I cannot. That's why I didn't belong to the club activity. Can you put up with the hard training of the club activity? No, that's why I cannot. That's why I don't belong to the club activity. I wasn't spoken to by anyone when I walked Kabukicho Street. I wasn't spoken to by anyone when I walked down the Kabuki Street. She is the teacher I was talking with. My baby was kept an eye on while I was in toilet. My baby was kept an eye on by my father while I was in toilet. My baby was kept an eye on while I was in toilet. My father kept an eye on my baby while I was in toilet. My father kept an eye on my baby while I was in toilet. We should put more effort on the research and development. I should put more effort on my speaking practice. I should put more effort on my pronunciation. I should put more effort on my pronunciation improvement. Some artists had an effect on. Some artists had an effect on. Some artists had an effect on by ukiyo-e. Some Western artists had an effect on by ukiyo-e. Japanese woodblock prints. Some Western artists had an effect on by ukiyo-e or Japanese woodblock prints. Some Western artists had an influence on by ukiyo-e, Japanese woodblock prints. The reservation was made about 1 month ago. The reservation was made about 1 month ago. The reservation was made about 1 month ago. The reservation was made 1 month ago. Who were you talking with last night? I'd like to know who you were talking with last night. Do you remember the place where we met for the first time? Do you remember the place where we met for the first time? I cannot put up with the hard training. I cannot put up with the noise. I cannot put up with the smell and noise. The noise cannot be put up with by me. The baby was kept an eye on by my father while I was in toilet. The baby was kept an eye on, kept an eye on. The baby was kept an eye on, kept an eye on. The baby was kept an eye on. The baby was kept an eye on, kept an eye on, kept an eye on. The baby was kept an eye on while I was in toilet. The security cameras around my house keeping an eye on people or cars around my house. The security cameras are keeping an eye on someone or cars around my house. The security cameras are around my house. Security cameras around my house are keeping an eye on, 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 keeping an eye on. The security cameras around my house are keeping an eye on people or cars or movement around my house. The garbage will be dealt with. Proposed of tomorrow. The garbages will be proposed of tomorrow. The garbages will be proposed of tomorrow. The garbage will be proposed of tomorrow. The garbages 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 will be proposed of tomorrow. It is said that there is a secret treasure in the mountain. There is said to be secret treasures in the mountain. It is said that there is a secret treasure hidden by ancient people in the mountain. There is believed to be secret treasures hidden by ancient people in the mountain. Do you believe so? Do you think so? It is said that he has lots of money in his bank account. He is said to have lots of money in his bank account. It is said that he could eat 2 kilograms of steak when he was young. He is said to have been able to eat 2 kilograms of steak when he was young. It seems that my dog can understand English. My dog seems to be able to understand English. It seems my dog understands English. My dog seems to understand English. It seems that my dog can understand English. My dog seems to understand English. My dog seems to be understanding English. My dog seems to understand English. It is expected that the flight will arrive soon. The flight is expected to arrive soon. It is expected that the new edition of the encyclopedia will be released about 3 months later. The new edition of the encyclopedia is expected to be released about 3 months later. It is expected that it will be rainy over the weekend next week. It is expected to be rainy over the next weekend. over the weekend. It is expected to be rainy over the next weekend. It is expected to be rainy over the weekend next week. It is expected to be rainy over the weekend next week. It is expected to be rainy over the weekends next week. It is expected to be rainy over the weekend. It is expected to be rainy. It is expected to be rainy over the weekend next week. It is expected to be rainy. It is expected to be rainy over the weekend next week. It is expected to be rainy. It is expected to be rainy over the weekend next week. It is believed that there is a treasure in the mountain. There is believed to be treasure. There is believed to be treasure. There is believed to be treasure in the mountain. It is believed that he has lots of money in his bank account. He is believed to have lots of money in his account. He is believed to have much money in his bank account. I was surprised at seeing some armed police officers on the road when I went to a foreign country. I was surprised at seeing armed forces on the street. I was surprised at seeing armed police officers on the street. I was surprised at seeing armed police officers when I went to a foreign country. It is unbelievable. Have you seen armed forces on the spot? Have you seen armed police officers on the spot? I saw many armed forces in the movie. I saw many armed forces in the movie. I saw armed forces only in the movie. I saw armed forces only in the movie or TV. I saw armed citizens on the TV. I watched armed citizens fighting in the TV news. I saw armed citizens fighting in the news. I watched armed forces fighting. I watched armed citizens protecting themselves. I watched armed citizens protecting themselves from enemies on the TV. How long do you think the sakura trees will hold out this year? It holds out usually about 2 weeks. Sakura trees usually hold out about 2 weeks. Sakura trees usually hold out about 2 weeks. Did you enjoy cherry blossom viewing this year? Did you enjoy cherry blossom viewing this year? Yes. How long do you think I will hold out at the hard training? I hope the gasoline of my car will hold out until I get to the petroleum station, gas station. I hope the petroleum of my car will hold out until we get to the petroleum station, gas station. I hope the gas of my car will hold out until I get to the petroleum station. I hoped that the petroleum of my car would hold out until I got to the petroleum station, but unfortunately it gave out. It ran out. It ran out. It ran out. It ran short. Ran out. Ran short. It exhausted. It exhausted. It exhausted. It ran out. It ran short. It gave out. So I called. So I stopped the car for help, and fortunately, a petrol tanker with some petroleum passed by. So I asked the driver to give me some petroleum. I hope the petroleum of my car will hold out until I get to the petroleum station. I hope the petroleum of my car will hold out until we get to the petroleum station. I hope the battery will hold out until I finish uploading the video. Video. I hope the ink will hold out until the new ones will arrive. Until the new ones arrive. I hope the ink of the printer will hold out until the new ones arrive. I hope the black ink will hold out until the new ones arrive. I hope the black ink will hold out. I hope the black ink will hold out until the new ones arrive. I hope the black ink will hold out until the new one arrives. I hope the black ink will hold out until the new ones arrive. I hope the black ink will hold out until the new ones arrive. I cannot play the guitar any longer. I cannot play the guitar anymore. I can no longer play the guitar. I can no longer play the guitar. I don't remember the lyrics anymore. I don't remember the lyrics anymore. I don't remember the lyrics any longer. I no longer remember the lyrics of the song. I no longer remember the lyrics of the song. I no longer remember the lyrics. I no longer remember the lyrics of the song. I cannot do push-ups only with one finger any longer. Only with thumbs any longer. I cannot do push-ups with only thumbs any longer anymore. I can no longer do push-ups with only thumbs. Please set me free. I will be set free from the hospital. Hopefully next week I will be set free. I will be released. I will be set free from the hospital. Hopefully next week. I will be set free next week. After about 30 minutes of crying, I was set free from the closet. After about 30 minutes of crying, I was set free from the closet. Please set me free. I'd like to be set free, so I confined myself to my room. I wanted to be set free, so I confined myself to the room in the net cafe for 2 hours. I wanted to be set free, so I turned off my phone and confined myself to the room in the net cafe. Please set me free. I'd like to be set free. So I turned off my phone and confined myself to the room in the net cafe. Please set me free. Please set me free. Please set me free. Mind your own business. Mind your own business. The region is reigned by the daimyo or feudal lord. The region was reigned over the feudal lord called daimyo. Each part of Japan was reigned by daimyo or feudal lord in Edo period. Each part of Japan was reigned by daimyo or feudal lord. Feudal lord. Feudal lord. Tokyo's old name is called Musashi. Musashi is the sound of 636 meters. 634. So the height of Tokyo Skytree Tower was decided as 634 meters because it is the same sound as Musashi, which is the old name of Tokyo. What do you think of the reign of the feudal lord? Reign. Under the reign of the dictator, many buildings were built in the capital. Under the reign of the shogun, many shrines and temples were built in the capital. Many wars were fought to obtain the reign of the region in the past. Many wars were fought in order to obtain the reign of the region blessed with gold. Many wars were fought in order to obtain the reign of the region blessed with gold. Many wars were fought in order to obtain the reign of the region blessed with gold. So during that time, many buildings, many gold were generously used. One of them, the most famous one, is Chusonji Temple. What do you think of tyranny? What is the definition 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 of tyranny? Tyranny might be the system reigned by a dictator. What is the definition of tyranny? 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 Tyranny. 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 tyranny, 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 tyranny. The tyranny was collapsed. The tyranny 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 will collapse soon. The tyranny is bound to collapse. 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 Some foreigners living in Japan want to get citizenship. One of my foreign friends succeeded in getting citizenship because she did her best, working hard. Citizenship. Citizenship. I have a citizenship of Japan. I have a citizenship of Japan. I'm reluctant to work today. I am reluctant to work today. I am reluctant to work today. I am reluctant to work today. I was reluctant to take on the offer. I was reluctant to go out today. I was reluctant to take on the offer. I was reluctant to overtake the offer. I was reluctant to overtake the offer. I was reluctant to overtake the offer. I was reluctant to take over my family business. I was reluctant to overtake the offer. I was reluctant to overtake the offer. I was reluctant to take on the offer. I was reluctant to overtake the offer. I was reluctant to overgo the operation because I was so scared. I was reluctant to overgo the operation for my teeth. I was reluctant to overgo the operation for my teeth. The command was issued by the minister. The command was issued by the CEO of the company. The command was ignored by some employees of the company. The command from the CEO was ignored by many employees. The command from the general manager was dismissed by the CEO. The command from the CEO must be kept at all cost. The command from the CEO must be kept, must be held. The command from the CEO must be held. The command from the CEO will be turned a blind eye by some employees. I'm sure some employees will turn a blind eye to the command from the general manager, because the general manager is very notorious. I'm sure some employees will turn a blind eye to the command from the general manager because the general manager is notorious. Who issued the command? 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 The command was issued by CEO. The command was issued by the city hall, the city mayor. The command was issued by the city mayor. The command was issued from the city hall. The command was issued from the city hall. We have to hold the promise. We have to hold the command. Who issued the command? 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 The command was issued from the city hall. The command was issued from the city hall. You are bound to succeed. You are bound to succeed. You are bound to succeed. Everyone is bound to succeed unless they stop dreaming. Everybody is bound to succeed unless they stop pursuing. Everyone is bound to succeed unless they stop pursuing. Unless they stop pursuing. Everybody is bound to succeed. Everybody is bound to succeed. Everybody bound to succeed. Everybody is 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 bound to succeed unless they stop pursuing. Unless they stop pursuing. You are bound to succeed. 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 The champion is bound to win the race. He is bound to win the race. You are 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 bound to win the race. Your dream will be bound to be achieved. Your dream is bound to be achieved. Your dream is bound to be achieved. Your dream is bound to be achieved. Your ambition is bound to be achieved. Your ambition is bound to be achieved, accomplished. The event is bound to be cancelled. The event is bound to be cancelled. Your ambition is bound to be accomplished. Your ambition is bound to be accomplished. Your ambition is bound to be achieved. Your ambition is bound to be achieved. The event is bound to be cancelled due to the inclement weather. The event is bound to be cancelled or be postponed, put off until next week. The event is bound to be postponed until next week. The event is bound to be postponed. The event is bound to be postponed until next week. The event is bound to be postponed until next week. The event is bound to be postponed until next week. The event is bound to put off until next week. The item is bound to be sold out by noon. The item is bound to be sold out by evening. The popular bread is bound to be sold out by evening. The bread is bound to be sold out by evening. The bread is bound to be sold out by evening. The bread is bound to be sold out by evening. The bread is bound to be sold out by evening. The bread is bound to be sold out by evening. The bread is bound to be sold out by evening. The bread is bound to be sold out by evening. He is bound to arrive at my house just 12 o'clock, because he is very punctual. He counts his time in front of my house. He is bound to arrive at my house just 12 o'clock, because he is very punctual. He will not visit my house at 11:59 or 12:01 if we promise to meet at 12 o'clock at my house. He is counting the time in front of my house if it is 11:59. Your dream is bound to be met. Your dream is bound to succeed. Your dream is bound to be made true. Your dream is bound to be made true. Your dream is bound to be made come true. Your dream is bound to be made come true. Your ambition is bound to be accomplished. Your ambition is bound to be achieved. Your dream is bound to be achieved. I am bound to marry her. I am bound to marry her. I am bound to marry her. The ally sent troops to the country B. The Allies sent some food and drinks to the country B. The Allies sent masks to the country B. The Allies sent masks to the country B in return for what the country got from the country B. The ally put the sign. The ally signed the contract with the country B. The ally signed the contract. 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 What is the definition of ally? The country became a member of the Allies. The country A became the member of the Allies. The country became a member of the Allies. The country became the ally of the group. The country became an ally. The country became the ally. Became an ally. The country became an ally. Ally. The Allies sent some food and drinks to the country B. The country became an ally. 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 Ally. The country became an 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 ally. The country A seceded from the ally. The country A seceded from the member of the ally. The country A seceded from the member of the ally. The country A seceded from the member of the ally. The ally met each other. The ally is holding a meeting. The ally will be holding a meeting tomorrow. The ally will be holding a meeting this time tomorrow. The ally will be assembled this time tomorrow. The ally will meet. The ally will meet. The ally will meet today. The ally will discuss the problems at the meeting today. The ally will discuss the problems at the meeting today. The ally will discuss the problems at the meeting today. I made a resolution to study every day. I made resolution to achieve my goals. I made resolution to try something new this year. The resolution was enacted at the meeting. The resolution was enacted at the UN conference. The resolution was enacted at the UN conference. Resolution. The resolution was enacted at the UN conference today. Resolution. You should make a resolution to achieve great. You should make a resolution to achieve something. You should make a resolution to achieve something. You should make resolution to challenge something new. The resolutions were violated by some countries. The resolutions were violated by the country A. The resolution was violated by the country. The UN resolutions were violated by the country. The resolution was 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 violated by the country. You cannot rule out the tasks. We have to make it to meet the deadline. You cannot rule out the tasks. You cannot rule cleaning out. You cannot rule out cleaning. You cannot rule out rainy days. You cannot rule out rainy days. It depends on the weather. We cannot change the weather. We cannot change the weather. We cannot rule out the rainy days. We cannot rule out rainy days. We cannot rule out rainy days. We cannot change the weather. 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 Rule out. We cannot rule out the rainy days. We cannot rule out rainy days. We cannot rule out the rainy days. We cannot change the weather. The member was ruled out of the team because he broke the rules. He was ruled out of the team. He was ruled out of the team. He was ruled out of the team because he broke some rules. The team. He was ruled out of the team because he broke some rules. He was ruled out of the team because he broke the rule. My crazy plan was ruled out. My crazy idea was ruled out. The plan A was ruled out for the expensive budget. The plan A was ruled out because of the high budget. The plan A was ruled out because of the budget problem. The plan A was ruled out because of a lack of budget. Because of short of budget. The plan A was ruled out because of short of budget. because of short of budget. Because of short of budget. The plan A was ruled out because of short of knowledge. No, short of budget. The plan A was ruled out because of short of budget. Lack of budget. Is the country republic? Is the country republic? What is the definition of republic? What is the definition of the republic? Republic. What is the definition of republic? Republic. 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 My friend was disappointed at my little appetite when I was sightseeing with him. My friend was disappointed at my little appetite when we were sightseeing. Are you excited about the party? Are you excited about the boxing match? Are you excited about boxing match? Are you excited about the TV program? Are you excited about the concert? Are you excited about the live of the musician? Are you excited at the musician's live? Musician's live? Are you excited about the musician's life? I was often confused with my father. I was often confused with my twin brother. I sometimes confuse the position of Tottori with that of Shimane Prefecture. I used to confuse the position of the Tottori with that of Shimane Prefecture. Do you also confuse Tottori with Shimane Prefecture? Because both prefectures are located next to each other. Both prefectures are located to each other. So I often confused Shimane with Tottori. I often confused with the lecture. I often confused about the lecture. I was often confused about the lecture. I was often confused about the lecture. I am often confused about the train system in Tokyo. I am often confused about the train system in Tokyo. I am confused about the new train system. I am confused about the public transportation in Tokyo. I am still confused about the new environment here. I am still confused about the new environment here. I am still confused about the new environment here. I am still confused about the new environment here. It will take more time to get used to it, to get accustomed to it, to familiarize myself to it, to get familiarized to that, familiarized to that. I was often confused about what the professor was explaining. I was often confused about what the professor was explaining. I was often confused about what the professor was saying. Are you scared of bungee jumping? Are you scared of watching a horror movie? Are you scared of watching a horror movie? No, not at all, really. Then let's watch one. No, I'm sorry, it was a joke. I'm actually scared of watching a horror movie, so let's not. Okay. I am upset about you. I am upset about you. I'm upset about you. I'm upset over you. I'm upset over you. I am upset about him. I am upset of the boss. I am upset about the boss. I am upset about the boss. I am upset about the decision. I am upset about the decision. I am upset about the decision made by him. I am upset over the decision made by him. I am upset about the sudden change on the schedule. I am upset about the sudden change in the schedule. I am upset about the sudden change of the schedule. I am upset over the sudden change of the schedule. I am upset about the sudden change of the schedule. I am upset about the sudden change of the schedule. I am upset about the sudden change of the schedule. Mount Fuji, covered with snow, is very stunning, very beautiful, mysterious. Mount Fuji covered with snow is very beautiful. In the morning, the road was covered with snow. In the morning, the road was covered with snow. Could you fill in the cup with tap water? Could you fill in the water? Could you fill in the cup with tap water, please? Could you fill in the cup with coffee, please? Could you fill in the bottle with tap water, please? Could you fill in the cup with coffee, please? Could you fill in the cup with tap water, please? Could you fill in the bathtub with hot water, please? Could you fill in the pot with hot water, please? Could you fill in the bottle with cold water, please? Could you fill in the bottle with cold water, please? Did you find something you can be absorbed in? Have you found something you can be absorbed in? Have you found something you can be absorbed in? Have you found something you can be absorbed in for a long time or forever? I am absorbed in studying English. I am absorbed in studying English now. I don't want to be caught in a traffic jam, so I left my house 1 hour earlier than usual. To escape from the traffic jam, I left my house 1 hour earlier than usual. I don't want to be I don't want to be caught in a traffic jam. I don't want to be caught in a traffic jam. I don't want to be caught in a traffic jam. I don't want to be caught in a traffic jam. I don't wanna be caught in a traffic jam. My fingers were caught in the gap of the elevator. The criminal was caught in police officer. The escaping prisoner was caught in police officer. I was caught in the traffic jam on my way home. I was caught in a torrential rain. I was caught in torrential rain. I was caught in torrential rain suddenly. I was caught in torrential rain on my way home. I was caught in torrential rain on my way home. I was caught in torrential rain. 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 I was caught in torrential rain on my way home. I was caught in torrential rain on my way home. Okay, I will finish speaking here. Thank you for watching. See you next time. See you.